Hey guys, good day. So just quickly, I'm setting myself a goal to upload videos every Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 11 AM Peru time, which I think is the same as Eastern time. So, superpowers. Are superpowers real? In my understanding, yes, they very much are. So I'm talking about real superpowers, like really bizarre stuff, like real superhuman capabilities, not just channeling or like Reiki healing or something like this, but like teleportation and like levitation and seeing into other dimensions of reality simultaneously, becoming like a multi-dimensional being, and all sorts of crazy stuff. So what I'm going to talk about is my experiences I've had during my contact experiences, and how some very, very bizarre things happen that would be labelled as impossible by modern science. So I'll get to that in a minute, but first of all I thought I'd talk a little bit about kind of the background to this and how it's been talked about in our history and science. So if you look at superhero movies, like one of the reasons I believe like movies like The Matrix and stuff resonate with us so much is because like superpowers, like Neo in The Matrix, and becoming aware of superpowers, and actually is actually something real in our civilization, and that's why it's like triggers so much excitement in us as humans, and why superhero movies are so popular. And so if you look at quantum physics and things like the double slit experiment and the observer effect that shows that like things like when you're observing like particles on a quantum level, they like appear to split into two parallel realities, and when there's no one watching them, and they create what's like called a wave effect, like they seem to like be in every position at once, and then when someone observes it, they suddenly change and become in a different reality. So that's a very rubbish explanation of the double slit experiment. But if you Google the double slit experiment and look into a lot of these quantum physics theories on YouTube, and there's a good movie called What the Bleep Do We Know? I think it's on Gaia TV, and there'll be some clips on YouTube. And Google the double slit experiment as well, or YouTube the double slit experiment. Watch a few different videos because some explain it. I think it's Dr. Wolf. Someone Wolf, double slit experiment. Google that, it'll blow your mind when you truly see what's happening on the quantum level. How like reality changes depending on whether someone's watching the experiment or not. And so a lot of the modern science in quantum physics is starting to prove that like reality is very different to how we think it is. Like it's starting to it hasn't quite got to the point of proof yet, but it pretty much has proved that like we're living in a non-physical reality, and we create our reality with our consciousness, which is of course what a lot of spiritual teachers, the law of attraction, Esther Hicks, Bashar, these type of people talk to. And like the law of attraction is becoming super powerful and positive thinking, and it's all based on the idea that we create our reality in our own consciousness, and what we focus on we actually experience in our reality. We're shifting to like different parallel realities, and we're actually creating different experiences within our consciousness, which is all an illusion based on our focus and our attention. So everything's pointing to the fact that we're kind of non-physical beings and reality is an illusion, which also points to the fact that superpowers are very possible. And if we look out throughout history, if we start with the Bible, and I believe like Jesus is a real person, I believe that the Bible is based on real circumstances. There was a lot of people don't believe in Jesus, and I think a lot of this to do was with a documentary called Zeitgeist, which talked about how a lot of what goes on in the Bible is to do with symbolism, and how it's to do with like the death and the rebirth of the Son. And they give a very compelling case that like Jesus wasn't a character, and all these are like analogies for like natural reality and phenomena in nature. But I believe that like Zeitgeist is definitely onto something. When you look at it, it's very clear. If you watch the movie, it's very clear that they're onto something. But I think what actually happened was Jesus was a real person, but like the Bible, like what they talk about in the Bible, like being death and rebirth in Easter, and perhaps it wasn't exactly how it happened, or perhaps it was, and it was just all one big crazy synchronicity. But I do believe Jesus was a real character. If you read the Bible, and if you've been on the spiritual journey for a long time and had many spiritual experiences, it becomes very clear. Sorry, there's ants all over my feet, and I don't want to squash them, and I don't want to get bit by them, but ow, Jesus, it just happened. And these big ones are a little bit painful. They're not like fire ants or anything, but that hurt. Anyway, so do the ants agree? So, where was I before I got, I mean, a little ant like that can cause so much pain to a human? Is that a superpower? So yes, so it talks about, if you've been through like a lot of spiritual experiences and a big spiritual awakening, and then you read the Bible, it's very clear that like this character Jesus was onto something, because he describes like a lot of stuff we're going through now, like many thousands of years ago. The Bible makes a lot more sense when you've been through a deep spiritual transformation than it does if you're just at the beginning of your journey, which can be very confusing. And so the Bible, of course, talks about like miracle healings, like Jesus just touching people and curing blindness and curing all sorts of diseases and ailments. It even talks about Jesus walking on water, I believe. So if our beliefs create our reality, and if more to the point, our collective beliefs create our reality, if like Jesus was doing all these healings and everyone started to believe that he had superpowers, it kind of makes sense that he was able to walk on water at some point if it was relevant for his path, if it was relevant to his journey as to assisting humanity, to show humanity that he did have superhuman capabilities. If everything synced up, it was his higher self wanted it to happen, source, God wanted it to happen, people believed it could happen, and he believed it could happen. I do believe that Jesus could have walked on water. If we look at like Hinduism and Buddhism, like a core belief in Buddhism, I believe, is that anything is possible. And Hinduism, there's lots of stories about miracles, like about gurus being in two places at once, and levitation and this sort of thing. So there's a lot of evidence that superhuman abilities are very much real. So if we go to like my experiences on the UFO ship, I'm just going to walk down here a bit, guys, because my landlord is cooking in the kitchen and his energy is disorienting me. I need to be at my own frequency to talk about superpowers. Syncs in kind of with what I was saying. If you don't believe it, you kind of, if you're in the aura of people that don't believe this, they can affect your own consciousness and stop you from unlocking your own superpowers. So it's all to do with beliefs, because we create our reality collectively. So, and many years ago I was doing a channeling for someone, and they were saying, how can we unlock our own superpowers and really take our reality to the next level? And what came through in the channeling was you need to go somewhere high up in the Andes or high up in the Himalayas, and create kind of a bubble consciousness where you're out of the collective consciousness, and then you'll be much more likely to use your own superpowers. And now I'm here in the Andes, like in a kind of bubble reality, and even the locals around here, like I'm moving into a new place tomorrow, and the landlord there was saying that he believed in a lot of this stuff. He's seen the ships and the orbs flying over the valley, and people are very open to the stuff here. It's part of the culture. It's a good place to be to create superpowers. And so, getting back to my extraterrestrial contact experiences. So, when I was in the forest, just before I had my contact experience, my energy went crazy. I thought like, oh wow, I'm becoming enlightened. I became extremely euphoric. I remember at one point, right, this is the last point before like I had the missing time, which I'll get to in a minute, which is another superhuman phenomena. I didn't create it myself. It was kind of like the ETs did it for me, but I'll explain in a minute. Where I kind of disappeared and got reinserted in reality in a different place in a different time. It was very bizarre. So yeah, but before that happened, I remember I was stood like looking into this bush, like having like this big expansion of consciousness, and I started to see multidimensionally. I don't remember exactly what it was like, because you can't remember like when you're not on the frequency of, like it's like you can't remember multidimensional reality with your mind, but I kind of remember it. So I remember I could see all I started to see, it's like my consciousness split, and all of a sudden I could see the few different future timelines, like an array sprayed out in front of me. And someone once asked Bashar, how do you see us? And he said, we see you as an array of potential future realities. And I truly believe this, because this is what I saw too. It's like my consciousness went multidimensionally, and I guess in my third eye I could see what would happen in the rest of my day, like depending on what action I took in the minute. Like I would end up in different locations in the forest, and my day would go different ways. And it's almost like 10 screens in front of me, and I could see that depending on my choices and my vibrational frequency, I would end up in a different parallel reality version of myself that day. So that's kind of like pretty amazing superhuman ability as it is. And I remember also like kind of like downloading Kung Fu. It was like literally like Neo in the Matrix, and I've still got this ability to this day, and I'm going to start studying martial arts so I can put this into action at some point and really get my fitness and my health up so I can really channel this energy, because I can intuitively like tune in to like these martial arts moves that I had no knowledge of, and like do them in the moment. Of course they tend to look a little bit silly, but I can actually do them quite well considering I've got no martial arts training. But so like the ability to download and flow in the moment. It's like have you ever seen, what was that series on? There was this series on Netflix, Sense8, where they all have like they can like, and one lady, they could channel this lady who was a martial artist. They were all connected to it. It's exactly like that basically. I think I had like past lives or aspects of my soul were like martial artists, and I tune into this. There's like a distinct male and female one where I can tune in and do like amazing martial arts. So so that was kind of another superpower. But what also happened, which was perhaps the most incredible superpower, is that I kind of like teleported out of this dimension into another dimension and teleported back into this dimension in a different location. So yep, this happened, guys. So when after I was having the multi-dimensional experience, that was the last thing I remember. And the next thing I remember, I'm stood in a different location in the forest. I'm now fairly certain it was a different location because I was on the other side of the path when I finally got out on the path. And by the time, I felt like the light had changed. I felt like suddenly I was facing in another direction. The light was, because I was looking away from the sun before, and now the sun was shining directly at me. And I was stood in an exact prone position like this, with my arms like splayed out to the sides. And there were all fighter jets flying around my head, like loads of them, like really low, like they were circling me. And they were, because as I came to recall later in meditation, I'd had an ET contact experience, which I suspected at the time because I'd suddenly kind of teleported. And so what happened, like at one point, I'm like looking into this bush, having this multi-dimensional experience, and it's really quiet, really peaceful in the forest. And the next thing I know, like the lighting's changed. I seem to be facing in a different direction. I'm in prone position, like exactly like this, like stood up dead straight like this, like I've been reinserted in reality, which I think I had. And there's all these fighter jets flying around my head, which had obviously picked up the UFO I now understand that had dropped me off. I mean, why else would there be fighter jet? It was like missing time, like instantly I was from one place to another, and it was so clear because it was like dead silent and peaceful forest. And then in the next instant, there's all these, I'm like, what the fuck, what the bleep? There's all these, like, I couldn't see them because it was cloudy, but they were definitely there. You can hear the noise. And so yeah, I think there were like 2, 3, 4 fighter jets plus some other plane that had a different engine sound, some sort of surveillance craft. And yeah, and I've told this story several times before on this channel. Some of you will have heard this story before. How I knew something had happened. I knew it was very clear because I'd had this big shift. My frequency was incredibly strong, like a vibration I've never experienced. Extreme euphoria, extreme connection to everything. I knew that the fighter jets were there because of me. I knew something major had happened, and over a few seconds it started to dawn on me that I'd probably had an ET contact experience, and I'd been reinserted somehow in this reality, or I'd just forgotten the experience. And yeah, so I've told this story many times before about how I started singing pop songs to Jason Donovan at the top of my voice to take vibrational control of the situation, and I could feel every atom of every tree and every atom in all the fighter jets resonating on the frequency of the pop songs, and how I was directly affecting the vibration of the reality. And so, but what I want to talk about more in this video is just how I literally like teleported. It's like later I sat down that day in the forest and began to remember bits, and then about a week later I did a meditation on the beach and it all started to come back to me, how I met my counterpart, who I believe is Tahini Ra, and he had a towel over his head, and it was all very bizarre and strange. Then I got guided through his ship and met many beings from many different realities and dimensions, and there was like these aquariums with like species from all over the world in there. And so the point is, like, I literally teleported, and like it was very clear that something happened, because like it was perfect peace and silence. And then the next thing I knew, I'm in this prone position, which is a bit strange for a start. The last time that happened when I fell off a mountain free soloing, and some miracle kind of saved me, and I ended up on this ledge with only a slightly fractured foot. So another bizarre experience. It was perhaps some kind of superpower, angelic intervention or something. And so yeah. So a lot of you are going to be skeptical about this. You're going to be like, yeah, maybe he's schizophrenic, blah blah blah, all this stuff. But like there's a lot of people talking about these experiences. When you if you look into the abduction phenomena, do some research on the abduction phenomena. Watch movies on YouTube like Communion and I can't remember the other one. What's the word? It's like it's not abducted. It's not taken. It's I can't remember, but anyway, look up abduction stories. They're very real. Millions of people have had these. There's hundreds of thousands, there's perhaps thousands of accounts on the internet and on YouTube, people that have been abducted, and certainly hundreds. And in these experiences, people get levitated through their roof. Like they see these little grey beings appearing, and they either get the grey beings like levitate them up, and they all levitate up together, and they literally pass straight through the roof and levitate up onto the ship. So like this stuff is very real, guys. We're entering into an age of miracles. We're entering into a very bizarre reality. And let me know in the comments what you think to this, whether you've experienced any bizarre like superhuman experiences yourself, whether you believe in this, and where you think we're going as a civilization. So I hope you enjoy this video, guys. We are becoming superhuman. Have a great day. Shivai.